get started this evening, everybody. Thank you for coming. It's a pleasure having you. Welcome to Avondale. Welcome to Woodland Elementary School. I'm Jim Schwartz, the superintendent of the school district. I'm going to introduce some folks to you as we get started this evening. We have Mr. Marty Allward. He's our assistant superintendent for student services. So the whole gifted and talented umbrella, if you will, is in his department. And then we have in the back over here behind us is, in the blue, is Mrs. Carmen Kennedy.
Hi, everybody. Hello.
She is our assistant superintendent for curriculum and instruction. So she'll be talking with us this evening about any of the curriculum questions, information, and such as pertaining to the program. We have Hillary Olance who's back at the table. Hillary is our gifted and talented coordinator. So she is coordinating the program from stem to stern. She works with committees with student selection processes, working with the principal and teachers involved. So those are the major folks that are associated with our program. So they're going to be kind of in and out of the conversation this evening. And we're going to invite you to also ask questions as we go. This is really a forum to get information for you, to hopefully make an informed decision as you're considering this program for your child. If you're just simply to get some information, that's great. So we try to keep this relatively informal and ask questions as we go. This is a new venture for us. We're upstarting a gifted and talented program in the school district. We're starting at the elementary level, and we feel that this is vital. We feel this is a population of students that largely gets ignored in most school districts, and at least in most public school districts, that is. It's oftentimes one of the first programs that gets cut whenever there's tough times in the school district. And we know that in this area, there's not much of a program to pick from unless you're choosing to send your child to a private institution. And we feel, really, from a philosophical standpoint, that this is we're shortchanging our kids, frankly. This is a population of students that certainly oftentimes is just bypassed because these are the kids who already get it. And so we're going to focus on the average student or the student who doesn't get it. And consequently, this end of the population is largely ignored. But as we look at data, we look at the research, and we look at trends around the country, and what's interesting is we're seeing that this population of students is becoming the fastest subpopulation of students who are dropouts. They get so disenfranchised with school and the system of school that by the time they get to high school, they become so disenfranchised that they become dropouts. And we're seeing that becoming a larger and larger number across the nation, and it's not good. Luckily, we're seeing now with the passage of ESSA, which is the Every Student Succeeds Act, which is essentially the reauthorization of No Child Left Behind at the federal level, that gifted actually now has been put back into that legislation as an area of focus for school districts. Because even at the federal level, it's alarming when we're looking at the statistics of dropouts and the fact that, again, this is a largely ignored population. So it's great to see that that's coming back in. So in Avondale, we are taking that very seriously. We're starting small because we want to do it right. So we're starting with a classroom next fall with a 3rd, 4th grade multi-age magnet program. What I mean by magnet program is students of like abilities that are in the classroom, frankly. It's a highly differentiated classroom. It's one that is very project-oriented, project-based instruction, very constructivist in terms of the methodologies of the classroom, because we know that's how children learn best. It's a classroom that is filled with choice and voice for students. Because again, it's that application that is often missing when we talk about gifted and talented education. The old paradigm of if a child is gifted or on that higher end of the academic continuum, we just give them more work. Somehow more is better. It's not about the more work. It's about what do you do with that work? How can you apply that work into a real-world situation or into, say, a workplace skill? So that is the philosophy really behind the crux of the curriculum and the instruction in the classroom. So we're looking at an environment that is really tailored to the individual child, capitalizing on their strengths, and yet very collaborative within that environment. So that child is learning to give of their strengths in a goal-setting type situation where it benefits that particular project for that team. So it's, again, we're trying to integrate a lot of workplace skills, collaborative skills, listening, speaking, presenting, along with just learning the content. Content's certainly the piece of it, the pacing, the acceleration is a piece of it, but ultimately it's what are you doing with that information? How creative is that student with that information? So that is really, in brief, the philosophy behind the classroom. So we don't want to put a cap on creativity because we believe that is critical to really enabling these students to soar with their abilities and capitalizing on their interests within them. Okay, Mr. Bell. So we're working, as we're developing this classroom, because this year we're going through a development phase, we're going through a student selection phase, we're identifying the teacher that's going to be instructing in the program. So we're getting ourselves all set up this year. And the list behind me you see on the screen are a number of folks that we are working with actively as we're developing. The model that we're going after is the Grosse Pointe model. If any of you are familiar with the Grosse Pointe Schools model, it's been in existence now about 26 years. It is that type of an environment that I described that really is reflected in what they're doing. So Ann Casino is their gifted and talented coordinator who's working with us and has been from the inception of the development of the plans. We're working with Susan Schiff from Michigan State University. Michigan State has the GATE program, and that is a likely jump from this program as it gets into middle school, up to the 9th grade level. So we're looking at a continuum as this program grows and this cohort moves, that there's always those next steps. So we're already thinking ahead into what middle school looks like and to the beginnings of high school. And so they're helping us with that. Grand Valley State University, we're working with them as they are the only university in the state that has a certified endorsement in gifted and talented education. So when we're looking at teacher candidates, we're looking at interns, we're looking at getting the best techniques, if you will, from a curriculum instruction standpoint. It's happening at Grand Valley within their endorsement program, so we're accessing them for that information. Christy McWilliams, she's the president of Michigan for Gifted Children, but she's also just been hired on at Oakland Schools, our intermediate school district, as a consultant for the county. And so we're working with her, again, as we're working to develop. And of course, we have Josh Raymond, who I think you all know in some fashion, or most of you know. He's in the Rochester Sage Group. He's spearheading that initiative and that organization. And so he has been key in terms of helping to provide us information about opportunities in the area, from conferences to workshops to networking with families. Because that's a big part of this program too, is the network of parents and families that are going to be essentially at one family within this setting. So when we talk about gifted philosophy, we're talking about a number of things, not just from a pure academic standpoint, but we're also looking at, as I said, however, they are applying those skills, What's their level of creativity? Because we think creativity, artistic ability are also where giftedness is manifested. It's not always just pure content or pure academics. And so this is a classroom where we're interweaving all of that giftedness, particularly the creative aspects of it, to capitalize on. So, describe gifted students. Again, the environment that we're creating is one where they can, they're all with folks of likability. So that creativity essentially isn't stifled, or their ambition isn't stifled because they're waiting for someone to catch up, or they're waiting for the teacher to be done instructing this group of students to help them. You know, there's not that distraction, if you will, or that necessary weight that happens in regular classrooms. So characteristics of the gifted, many people have a notion that a gifted student is just a high achiever, and that's not the case. We know that a gifted student is much more than just a high achiever. It is someone who is very analytical, very creative. And you can see some of the bullet points up there that stretches just beyond scoring high on tests. And in our situation, in our process, when we look at student eligibility for the program, yes, we're looking at someone who's a high achiever, but we're also looking at their sense of creativity, their sense of curiosity. How do they analyze? How do they draw connections between things? So it's not, different from many other programs. We're not looking at just a test score, where if you score here, you're in. If you don't score here, you're not. We're not that at all. We're taking more of a portfolio approach to the program, looking at the whole child, and what does that whole child bring as an asset to this classroom. So, do you have any comments on these particular characteristics?
Well, in the middle, it talks about the affective characteristics of gifted students, and through our research and our working with Michigan State and Grand Valley and Joshua and many others, we found that these students are very perceptive, but they have an awareness that's different than other students. Sometimes they want to be a perfectionist. Some of them appear to be introverted. There's high anxiety. So we've realized these things. We're taking that into consideration as we form our classroom to make sure there's supports in there so that child can soar, even though some of these things may be existing, and understand that they could be part of the child's mental makeup so that they can strive in school and not have to worry about these types of things and make it a safe place for learning. So we have on the left, as Dr. Schwarzer said, the high achiever, and then we have the gifted learner. And I won't go through all this. It's in your handouts, and if you have any questions, feel free to stop us at any time. But a high achiever knows the answers, but the gifted learner asks the questions. The high achiever shows interest, but the gifted kid is very, very, very curious. The high achiever pays attention. The gifted student may just be intellectually engaged. High achiever has good ideas, but a gifted student has original ideas. And I can go on and on and on, and you can see there is a major difference. And why we wanted to put that in there for you is sometimes you think your child may be gifted, but they're a high achiever. And we just want you to be aware of it. We've talked to some of the people from Michigan State and Grand Valley, Oakland schools, and they said it's so important for parents to realize the difference between high achievers and gifted students.
So our program has the following, mission, principles, and key values. And I want to point out that the environment is one that not only meets the academic needs, but also the social emotional needs. Because we understand that in this population of students, oftentimes there are those social emotional needs that come with being being a gifted student. And so within this population, we're being very careful to build in supports to assist in the growth of those areas. So as we talk a little bit about in terms of the need for this type of a program, again, in a regular traditional classroom setting, a gifted child oftentimes is bored, oftentimes unchallenged, oftentimes having to wait a lot for folks to catch up to where they're at. Oftentimes they're moving at a pace that is slow for them. Whereas in a gifted situation and with like-minded peers, it's more individualized. They're able to really pursue, investigate, get interested. And what's important about that is not just learning the concepts behind that interest area, but then being able to present it to the class and essentially market their talents. Because we know that's the real world of work, particularly for this generation coming out. They're going to have to market their own talent to find jobs. Differently than our generation. So that's something that we're very cognizant and careful to build into the curriculum. So our plan, as we're moving ahead, as I mentioned, for next year, for the fall, putting together a 3rd and 4th grade multi-age classroom here in this building. So we invite you, certainly at the conclusion of the meeting today, to wander around, get a sense of the building, take a look at the environment. And the reason why we're placing it in this building is not only because we have space available, but when you look at the design of the classrooms, you'll notice as you walk around, you'll see big open pod areas outside of the classrooms. These essentially are areas for maker spaces. And this classroom will be heavily involved in that type of a collaborative instructional methodology. We're going to be using those collaborative workspaces. And this is the only building in the district where we have that type of a design around our classrooms. And we also know that proximity-wise to a lot of families who are interested in the program, they're residing in this general area. And location-wise for families, this is a more ideal building for transportation purposes to the school. But again, as you have the ability after the meeting to just wander around and take a look at the school and get a sense of the rooms and how things are a little different design than your traditional elementary school. That really allows for that collaborative type of environment. As we move into the following year, in the 18-19 school year, we're looking to expand into a 2-3 multi-age and then a 4-5 multi-age. So we'll be expanding outward on both ends. When you're implementing a program such as this, where you're looking across a continuum, it's most effective to start in the middle. Contrary to what may be intuitive to start at one end, either K or 5, and work either in or up. If you start in the middle, you're better able to gauge your scope and sequence of skills coming into that classroom, your skills going out of that classroom. And you have a much more substantive curriculum if you start in the center and work outward from there. So that's what we're doing. As we look at some particular question areas that folks frequently have with this, first questions folks may have is there a cost? Is there a fee? Is there a tuition that you have to pay for this? And the answer is no. There is no cost, there's no fee, there's nothing extra that anyone would have to spend to be in the program. It is simply, you're in the school district, your child's FTE covers the cost of that program. There's nothing additional on top of what the state pays for that FTE. The class size, we're looking at 26 to 28 students in the classroom. We're looking at opening 1, possibly 2 sections depending upon demand. That is, we began this year through this fall, looking at internally in the district, what students we have that are currently attending Avondale schools that would fit the profile, would be eligible, and we've just now completed a process of teacher nominations as well as parent nominations, and going through a process of identifying eligibility for those internal students first into the program, and then the slots that are available after we place those students, we then open up to school of choice, so those seats outside of the district. And that's why I'm saying there's going to be 1 or 2 sections, again, depending on demand that we have from outside the district, as we place our internal students first. The school of choice window period occurs it'll be April 10th to May 10th is the 30-day window that we have from the state to accept school of choice applications. The number of slots will be determined in January by our Board of Education. We'll go with a recommendation to them as we place the internal folks with, okay, what slots do we have outside of that? And then they will then pass a resolution for a number of slots for the program. So the internal seats are being filled first, and then school of choice seats will be filled in the winter and the spring in preparation for the fall. The teacher selection is occurring as we speak. We've been through a number of rounds of interviews with teacher candidates. We'll be making a final selection actually in January as we finish up the interview process and the observation process of those teachers. And the reason why we're bringing the teachers on early is so that they can begin to get to know families, begin to develop a relationship with families, begin to get their classroom ready, continue with trainings and workshops, and getting all set to go for the fall. And that person or persons, if we hire more than one, will be working with these consultants in that duration between January and the fall, so that we are hitting the ground running. Transportation. Transportation is not provided for the program. That is something that obviously you would have to provide if you're bringing your child to and from school. Same thing with internal. This would be a school of choice internal. If a student is in another elementary school coming here, transportation is not provided. Student support services, Mr. Allward.
So we recognize that each child is unique and different, and we want to make sure they have all the supports they need to be successful, be it from social work to speech and language, honor a Section 504 plan or an IEP if they have to have that. We'll make sure all those things are in place and the supports are needed that they will have to be successful. So if there's an IEP or a 504 or just something unique you want us to know about your child, please let us know. That's part of the reason we want this teacher to start early. We'll be collaborating with our social worker, our team, our teachers, so that we can help your child have a successful year to start next year. We'll be looking at some transition activities in the springtime after all the selection, where the children can come together, meet each other, get to know each other. So when they start in the fall, it's a unique, ready-made, let's go and let's get after it experience.
And then curriculum-wise, Mrs. Kennedy, let's give a little bit about the curriculum.
So in front of you, hopefully you picked up this packet, beyond the textbook, in terms of baseline. So curriculum-wise, we have expectations from the state that we follow certain standards, that we make sure that all students have access to the standards and the benchmarks that are expected. However, this classroom will look a little bit different in terms of maybe the instruction and the teaching learning that goes on. So this pamphlet here is something that we actually have published throughout our school district. And as a school district, this is the way that we are moving right now. And we are moving beyond those worksheets and the textbooks. And if you open up, and these are, and by the way, these are actually our kids in Avondale. We didn't find them on the internet. And copy and paste and make it stretch and do all type of things, but these are actually our students. And we believe in student ownership of learning. So particularly in this classroom, if your student, let's say, has a great desire, let's see what we got going on over here, volcanoes, and they're just so infatuated with volcanoes. Not only do we provide the basics about volcanoes, but children can go deeper into their learning. Sometimes in classrooms, we are so caught up on time to make sure we cover 20 things, and sometimes we just don't get good at those 20 things. And when we talk about a gifted and talented classroom, we want kids to have the opportunity to dig as deep as they wish to into their learning and what's passionate for them. And with that, we have something back it called project-based learning, which maybe you're familiar with. And project-based learning, and I shared some information with you, is actually from the Buck Institute, and they are internationally known for project-based learning. We are actually working right now with a consultant from Oakland Schools who is trained from the Buck Institute, and we have a cohort of teachers working with our consultant from Oakland Schools to learn more about project-based learning. But project-based learning basically is about voice and choice. So students have a choice in what they do. So let's say that your student is finished with a certain math assignment. Well, that student doesn't just stop there. There's choices in what he or she can do next. Sometimes in assessments, sometimes we're so caught up in saying, fill out this assessment, a multiple choice, choose A, B, and C, true or false. But in this type of classroom, in project-based learning, students have a choice of the type of assessments to demonstrate to the teacher what they know. Sometimes students are not the best at writing. Sometimes they're not the best at taking tests. But maybe they're the best at creating something of a model like this, something hands-on. Maybe they're a poet. But the bottom line is that students have the opportunity to demonstrate how they learn, and it's part of the teacher's responsibility to be the leader of learners versus the teacher, which are two different mindsets. You are the leader of learners. You are facilitating, you are guiding, you are mentoring, you are coaching, you are instructing. And at the same time, you are the teacher, you are in charge of the classroom, right? I personally love organized chaos, just saying. But that teacher has to be comfortable with that. So when you think about, well, how will our student receive enhancement in math, and how will our student receive enhancement in literacy? Well, a large part of that rests in the teacher in terms of their skills and abilities and the tool set that they have. But because we believe that students are leaders of their learning, we have project-based learning, which is information for you right here. We have something called design thinking, rethinking how we do something. So for example, we have students tomorrow at our high school who are visiting restaurants in downtown Auburn Hills, all of one block. It's not that big. They are going in and they are studying the lunch environment. They'll come back into a collaborative setting, and they will redesign the lunch experience for those customers and give that feedback to the restaurants. This is the third time that we have done this. All our teachers at the high school have been through it. And each time we go through it, about 60 to 70 kids go through it as well. So that's an example of design thinking. It's about critical thinking, collaborative thinking. Kids who are artistic, they can do the hands-on and creation. Those kids who are great at writing, they can do the writing piece. Those kids who are business savvy or have that financial mindset, they can. So there's something for every single kid. And then cultures of thinking. This is simply digging into helping kids demonstrate their thinking instead of always having to do this quite boring sometimes task that we do, but how are kids demonstrating what they're thinking? Because those who are thinking are those who are learning. The more that teachers talk, the less that students have the opportunity to talk. So we believe in that student voice and choice piece. So I cannot give you these intricate details about how do we enhance math and how do we enhance literacy, because it's up to the individual child. And so it's this teacher's responsibility to be that leader of the learning. Do you have any questions for me right now? Yes.
I think this method of teaching is really wonderful. My concern is that just from what I have at home. So if I have a child that avoids writing, because that's not their forte, and so my concern is how are we developing those writing skills? Because later on in life, when we're outside of this bubble, and we're expected to write, how do we make sure those skills are enhanced?
So the other piece of this, and thank you for that example, not only is it the expectation the teacher enhances our great strengths and our skills, but also addresses those challenges. And maybe, and I'm just giving some examples, that writing piece will come through some different types of activities. Sometimes another piece about project-based learning is this cross-curricular piece. So instead of just English, can you give me an example of what your kid loves to do, for example? Math. Okay. So, believe it or not, there's writing in math, right? Writing a story problem. So trying to attach what your son and daughter, what your son loves to do with attaching that math piece with that writing piece. Maybe exploring the fact that he can write some great math problems and write a great math project. So just trying to connect what I love to do and what I really need to get better at. Does that make sense? Sure.
I just want to make sure they don't put that choice so much where
No.
those skills don't get developed.
Correct, yes, and it has to be, you still have, that leader piece, the teacher's still in charge.
Okay,
Yes.
perfect.
Yes.
Question similar to yours, in that, both our children, they their own special talents, if you will. One of them's a voracious reader, is good at math. The other doesn't like to read, but is very good at math.
Mhm.
So I guess, similar to their thinking is how do we, from an integration standpoint, is this environment solely dedicated for just the child that's identified as gifted and talented, or are they integrated into like the general population of other kids in the school as well? And then with focuses on the things that they're very good at, supplemented by things that they need to work.
So I will answer that question a couple ways for you. So this is a standalone classroom. So they will be in the classroom with their like-minded peers. They will have the opportunity for specials, and for here in Avondale, our specials are art, physical education, and music. But they will go probably to those specials as a class. They will have lunch with kids from their grade level. They will have recess time with kids from their grade level. So this is a standalone classroom.
Okay.
It's not a pull-in, it's not a pull-in or a push-out piece.
Right.
So that's that piece. I think I'm hopefully answering that question
Yes.
for you.
Yes.
And then, so to go back into what you're asking about, how do we strengthen, you said one of your girls is a reader. She's looking for books right now.
Reader
right?
is good at math. The
Okay.
other,
Yeah, someone's looking for books right now.
That's right. That's the
Yeah.
one. And the other is good at math, or actually really good at math, but doesn't like to
Yeah.
read.
So one of the pieces that we looked at as a committee when we were doing, when we are still doing it, when we are going through teacher interviews, although we wanted to know the experience that teachers had with gifted and talented children, we also wanted to know the heart of a teacher.
Yeah.
Because if kids don't know that you care, you can't connect with them.
Yeah.
So one of the pieces that will be important to us is that teacher is able to get to know both of your girls, or your daughters. Is it going to be one or two?
Two.
Okay, there we go. To get to know both of them,
Yeah.
to understand who they are at the core of who they are as learners,
Yeah.
and connect with them to strengthen one in math and strengthen the other one in reading, and to bring those two pieces together. So, and there are various strategies and instructional moves and supports to make that beautiful dance happen. But it's the magic of a teacher that matters the most, and we are very, very well aware of that. Any other questions?
So will kids have the opportunity to move ahead in math?
Yes.
Beyond their,
Yes. Yep.
you know,
Sure,
classmates,
yes.
beyond the
We
grade
do
level?
that now, yes. So we do have kids, for example, right now, I'll give what we do right now. We do have kids right now, for example, who are in 4th grade, who are going over to the middle school for 6th grade math, advanced 6th grade math. Therefore, we do have some 7th graders who are going to the high school to take Algebra 1 or even geometry. So we believe in the fluid movement of children to go through what they need to go through that works for them. We just don't keep them in this little box. So you stay right here and you do this and that. So they
And
do
how
have
does
that.
that work? I mean, you can't, not all kids are ready to start 3rd grade. Oh, wait, I'm in 4th grade math. They need to just move through the 3rd grade math quickly. How does that work? What does that look like here?
Well, fortunately, we have a math curriculum, and I say fortunately because some school districts don't have a math curriculum. And we have a math curriculum that is stretched from K-5, probably K-12, but I'm speaking right now of elementary K-5. So teachers have access to what they need, the resources and materials to go along the way. And sometimes, as I said earlier, it's about giving that choice in activity, taking that student just to the higher level, But the expectation is that we will keep taking that kid to the higher level. Logistically, how does it work? We provide transportation. Like if a kid has to go to the middle school or to the high school.
I guess I just think like, chapter pre-tests. They already know this information.
We move on.
Just move right on and don't have to do that.
No need to keep doing this because it's the dance that we do and this is school and this is what you do. No, let's take it to the next level. Yes.
Is it your intention to have language courses?
Foreign language?
Correct, foreign languages.
Is it our intention? Yes. Will it be in place next year? No. It is something that we are looking into. It is something that we have learned through our strategic planning.
It's on the docket as one of the big initiatives in our strategic plan for the district. And so that's something that's under exploration as a district. So that's not something that will be ready for this cohort or for next year, but that is something that down the road that we are looking to bring to the district.
And we do provide language at the middle school and high school, it's not at the elementary.
Correct.
However, that, something to think about, and now I'm throwing all type of stuff out there, so don't hold me to it, okay? All right. So I'm picking Spanish, and maybe if your child's teacher knows that, maybe that teacher can provide something. It's not a total shutdown, no. So again, it's about that teacher being resourceful, being creative, and trying to dig in. And maybe it's a cultural look into the Spanish language, something of that nature. So just because we don't provide the program, doesn't mean that we can't provide learning opportunities. Ola, that's all I got. Yes.
Are there plans to have support staff to help that teacher? Because I'm thinking, just by the questions, that we have 28 kids with individual needs. And parents who want those needs met. So my kids in the classroom right now, 14 kids with individual needs, and they're struggling at times. So we're doubling them, so how are we?
So we're going to have plenty of supports. Again, we're going to have people such as our teacher consultant, social work, speech and language, working with language type activities with our students. We have paraprofessionals in the building that can come in and provide support as well to make smaller learning environments. Again, one of the things that we've been doing in the interview process when we talk to the teachers, we don't want a teacher that has group lessons. We want a teacher that can have 7 or 8 little lessons going on at one time and be able to oversee it. They say when the teacher's working harder than students, great learning isn't taking place. So we don't want the teacher working harder than the students. We want the teacher to be a facilitator. So we'll be able to handle that inside a classroom with that type of numbers. I'm sorry, the one thing also is we've been modeling it after Grosse Pointe schools. And Grosse Pointe schools have been doing this for well over 20 years. And that's their class sizes as well.
And then back to what we were speaking, I'm sorry, if we advance, over to the high school or whatever, with these gifted children, how do we make sure that their sensitivities are met if they are in 3rd grade and going to 7th grade, 8th grade, or how be it? Yeah.
So again, each child is unique, and each child we have to look at. And when we send kids currently from here to the middle school or the middle school to the high school, we make sure we have a team of people watching over, making sure that they feel safe, checking in on them. It is a big environment change when you're going from a 6th grade classroom to a geometry room or from a 4th grade classroom to a middle school. So our social workers are very involved, checking in with the teachers, talking about signs of anxiety, stress. We want to make sure that they're comfortable, and then we provide support if they aren't feeling that way.
We try as much as possible to make those accommodations in the school first before we would choose to send them to a middle school or send them to a different environment. We really would attempt to meet those needs here. And then, as the case may be, or for a small amount of time when they need a different environment, we would work to accommodate that and provide the supports necessary for that transition.
And I know that you've referenced several times the Grosse Pointe G&T school.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming that that is your primary school that you've been modeling your program after. Are you looking at other G&T public schools also? And if so, which schools?
We've looked at Saginaw's program, we've looked at Livonia's program.
We took a visit to Saginaw.
Handy.
Yeah.
And what about out of state? Have you looked at any of the other out of state?
We've not gone to out of state.
Okay.
We've just done locally and what's kind of been the trends around the
And
area.
our
Grosse Pointe is the one that appealed to us most in terms of kind of where our philosophy
How large is
was.
the student body at Grosse Pointe?
Grosse Pointe Public Schools.
No, at the G&T school.
There's two
There's
schools.
two
Okay.
GT.
Well, excuse me, there's two buildings, and they have,
They house the program.
they house at two ends of their district. So 2 classrooms per building. So that's probably about 120 kids.
For up to what grade?
They are multi-age and they are not crossing over into the middle school. So they are,
Fifth grade.
yeah,
So
Up to
the-
fifth
okay,
grade.
all right.
yeah, they are elementary, and then their middle school program has.
That's-
They have choice, in the middle school, they have accelerated.
I'm just trying to get a frame of reference. We're new to the area, but our daughters had been at the G&T school in Green Bay, Wisconsin, which had a population of not quite 300, up to 5th grade.
Okay.
But they were the only G&T school, so they had people driving 45 minutes an hour every morning to get there. So, I mean, we're trying to understand where you're headed versus our prior frame of reference and what was offered, just trying to get the full picture.
Well, that's a really good question. So again, we've been working with MSU and Grand Valley and Oakland schools, and Josh has kept us very up to date on many things. So it's very interesting. When we met with Michigan State, the GATE program, one of the things they do when you're a 7th grader, before you're done, 7th and 8th grade, you will complete the entire high school math curriculum. And when you go into high school, you'll be taking a college math curriculum. So we're not quite there. We wanted to start. We want to really learn, observe, make sure we're making smart choices. So we don't want to make a prediction about how it's going to look at 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, because we want to see what our students need. And that's what's going to be a little bit different than us, than other people. We've talked to a lot of these consultants, and they said, take it one step at a time. Look at what you're doing, evaluate what you're doing. It'd be great if we had a plan for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, but we're starting right now with 3rd and 4th. We want to see what
So
their
that's
needs are
the-
going to be.
That's the rationale behind only starting with 3rd and 4th grade then?
Well,
Yeah, I mean, part of it is we're starting small so that we can grow the curriculum and we can tailor that curriculum to the needs of the students. We don't want to open a canned program.
No, of course,
We don't want to,
of course not.
So that's,
It was just a question they had written down, is why start so small? And I
Yep.
think you had said you want to make sure you got it done right, but
yeah,
I think you're feeding the other half of the question. on
Yeah.
that.
we're trying to keep our sights on the horizon. That's why we're having conversations now with the middle and high school level, because we want to be able to, see where eventually these kids will end up.
I wondered.
But that pathway to get there, we don't necessarily want to lock in stone. We want to tailor it as they go and see what best meets the needs of the students.
So one more question, I don't want to monopolize them.
Oh, no, this is great. This is why you're here.
All right, so with regard to funding for the school and the program, how are you funded? Is it completely state aid?
It's completely state aid,
Are you accepting donations from private entities?
if they choose to, but that's not.
That's not,
practice.
no, that's just.
If you know someone.
we'll talk.
I mean, that's just,
To
Sure.
us, it's important,
And I don't know, Wisconsin may do it
how
differently.
how viable is the school? Starting out,
Financially, sure.
long term, and again, determining what the children need. How are we able to financially provide those, resources, whether teachers, programs, materials, or whatever resources we're needing, to ensure that the program is successful and
Sure.
can continue to grow, and that the children are getting what they need out of the program as well.
Budgetarily, we've prioritized this program. So, I mean, our funding essentially comes from the state. That's it. I mean, it doesn't.
We know Michigan is not one of those states that has a large pool for GDP.
Michigan does not have a separate category for gifted and talented, no. And maybe things will change when ESSA becomes more enforced, as that gets more out there and more in place. And, the state has brought on a consultant, Oakland Schools has brought on a consultant, so people are taking note, so maybe there will be some categorical dollars that will follow. But we're not waiting for that to happen. It's great if it does, it should, but in our local budget, this is a program that we've prioritized with staffing, materials, resources.
You really have a
Which is
great
again
question.
why we're starting small.
You really have a great question. In most parents' minds, Michigan funding is so unpredictable. But there is no other program in Oakland County. When Joshua came to the district, there is no other program for these kids. And we think this population of students needs an education. And we've made that commitment. We've put the time in, we're learning, we're working with other people because we really feel this group of students needs a commitment from a school district and they need an education. So when you say, how viable, those types of things, as our superintendent said, we've made this a priority. It's one of our strategic plans. We think it's important for our students. We think it's important for our school environments. And, in most days, people cut because of funding. We're putting this in despite funding because it's a good thing and it's the right thing to do for kids.
Well, Mr. Elway mentioned the strategic plan, and the community felt that addressing the needs of gifted and talented was important enough that it's embedded in the strategic plan for the district.
And what you may find in other schools, that I talked earlier about that pull out, push in, you may find little bits of that around, but it's nothing that's, I was just having a conversation with someone, but the job that he previously had was, he was a gifted and talented person, and he jumped around from classroom to classroom and would work with the kids, say, for 30 minutes. And then the next kid rolled in, and then the next kid rolled in. So you may find that piece throughout different school systems, but in terms of something that is dedicated, it would be us in Oakland County.
And the other option that we see quite often is, well, every other Friday, we'll bus you to one of our schools for 2 hours and we'll provide you gifted and talented. Really, it's an enrichment type service. And that's probably the most common, prevalent, one we see, so.
We wouldn't want this to be concentrated. We want it to be systemic as it goes, as it moves. We want to be able to tailor it to the needs of the cohort as it goes. So, we're doing it very deliberately.
I see your question.
Once it is in place, the state of Michigan has many foundations that support, such as the Skillman Foundation. And you have to have people who will write a grant. And that's very accessible and very much there in tune once the process has been established. So it's not like it's an empty hole. There are resources.
I was doing our congressmen and lobbying
Well,
and trying to get people to.
there are many foundations.
Yeah, and lobbying is picked up for gifted and talented, particularly since now it's in ESSA.
So many of you may not be aware, but in the late 70s, early 80s, gifted and talented fell under the Individuals with Disability Education Act, and students would have an IEP. And as we're speaking, there's actually talk, at the Capitol of putting gifted and talented back under IDEA. Separate type of IEP, there's all talk right now because they put it in the ESSA. And again, they actually do this in Texas. Each student has an IEP and they're having great success with it in Texas right now. Our consultant is from Texas, that any student that had gifted and talented would actually have an IEP to address those individual needs, be it math, be it social, be it whatever they may need.
But I believe Texas also has the largest number of homeschooled students in the United States.
I don't know if you'll get to this, but I was just wondering what you see a typical day looking like for these kids. And I know you're gonna tell me it's up to the teacher, but I kind of want to know what your vision is, what the plan is.
Well, because we are, let me give you a traditional piece, okay? This is what the vision is. Right now in our classrooms, and this is probably possible no matter where you are, you have such amount of time for ELA, you have such amount of time for math, You may get like 2 minutes for science and then like a whole minute and a half for social studies, right? And then how our special schedule work is not a daily. Kids don't receive like daily PE, so we have to, maneuver all that piece in. So the vision is, and hopefully I'm answering your question the best way that I can, is that because of that importance of cross-curriculum integration, that we're not, okay, from 9 to 10, we're gonna do some ELAing. That's not really a word, but that's what we're gonna do, ELAing, and then we're gonna stop, and then we're gonna go do this, and then we're going to go do that. So we're hoping that it's more fluid and it's not choppy. And not that it's like that in every classroom, but there's integration, there's hands-on, there's exploration, and bringing all those pieces in. And I pick with science because the state of Michigan just adopted new science standards, the next generation science standards. And there has to be more time dedicated to science. Right now, some schools flip-flop. You get 2 days of science, a whole 30 minutes to explore, and that's it, that's all to it. The science is so important in terms of what we do. So hoping to see a more fluid schedule and not choppy. We do this, we do this, we do this, and we do this. Does that help? Give me more, keep asking me so maybe I can answer your question.
I'm just kind of wondering what, you're kind of saying there's no structure to the day, and so I just, are all
there's
these
structure,
things
but
gonna be covered every day, or?
I'm sorry, I don't want to jump in, but because we came from, I've got pieces throughout elementary and middle school, and we moved my son to Montessori. And in my mind, I feel like it's probably Montessori-esque.
yes.
So, are you familiar with Montessori? Like, they have a planner. So Monday, these are the objectives, work on the science thing, or let's say geology, and we're going to study definitions of rocks, but every day under that line item, or every weekday under geology, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, that's a line item. Science, we're working on something different, or geography, we're going to do Africa. So Monday, or Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we're working on the geography. When the teacher is having a lesson with a small group, the other kids take their planner and say, okay, today's Monday, I'm starting the Africa project and I'm doing the rock definition. And they go off on the carpet and they independently work on the things that they know they're supposed to do. Word building, maps, whatever, they have their objectives that they have to meet and keep their planner. That's how his day goes, and I'm thinking, just from what you're saying and just my experience with how it works in Montessori, probably feels like we're kind of work that way. Where then when their certain time frame is up, whatever you've done, if he spends his whole time, start to finish, 3 days worth of doing the Africa work, then he's done with that for the week. So tomorrow when he comes in that same time chunk, he could do a little bit of the geology, a little bit of word building, maybe not finish anything, but it's not really due till Thursday. So that's okay, he worked on it. He did as much as he wanted and put it away. I don't want to.
So I couldn't name it like that.
I felt like that gives a picture of what I think the classroom would look like.
And there's a combination of direct instruction to the group in terms of establishing a certain skill base, certain content knowledge, and then that's intermixed with time for application, where kids are working either exploration or they're working collaboratively on a project, while the teacher is working with a group, specific instruction. Other members are out working on a project, embedding concepts that they've learned into that project. That teacher then moves over, is instructing that group then, and then that group goes off and starts to embed concepts into a project. And so it rotates around the day like that. It's very thematic, if you will, in terms of the instruction. And we're trying to purposely not make it so that, from 9 to 9:30 is math, and 9:30 to 10 o'clock is writing. We want to deconstruct any departmentalization of the classroom. It's really concepts taught with the application model.
They be learning.
Well, they're going to be learning the core, they're going to be learning the mandated curriculum that is mandated by the state, and that will be paced as needed for those individuals in the classroom, whether they're above level But the crux of the content of the learning is what is required content by the state.
Anything else? Anything more?
And whatever their interest area is and their passion is, they'll be diving deeper into whatever those areas of interest are. And that's, the teacher will be working with those individuals. Again,
So-
offer that voice and that choice of students.
Okay, because I mean, I was just wondering, because I know in middle school, I went to a different type of school, and then I was just looking at, I went to Friends School, it was a Quaker school, and I was thinking about Detroit Waldorf schools, which is, it's not exactly a gifted and talented school, but it's a very similar curriculum. And they learn about like Norse mythology, and I remember learning about Shakespeare and civil rights and things like that. So along with like the core-based curriculum that Michigan has, what are the extra things, or like the step further that the kids will be learning? Like is there Shakespeare, like, you know, things like that?
It will depend on the student interest. We're going to play off of what the student interests are.
But the availability is there.
And the availability is there to tailor that curriculum for that child.
What about plays? Do they have plays? Like, do you guys have plays?
Like theatrical plays?
Yeah, I mean, like activities, other activities. I mean, learning is fun, I get that, and I get that this is gifted and talented program, but like other things that they're going to be doing.
Well, you may see one group of students over here doing a project like you're seeing up here, and another group of students presenting the same material in a
In a
play.
different way. Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
You're not speaking necessarily of like extracurricular after-school clubs, you're
No.
speaking within.
Yes.
Although within the program, there are extracurricular clubs that are
So
available.
speaking of extracurricular.
Yes.
Speaking of-
I mean, what's offered here right now for the kids, I'm assuming our kids in the gifted and talented classroom do
Almost
participate in
Absolutely.
whatever, so
Yeah.
like choir,
They
drama.
have a smorgasbord of activities that after school. There's garden clubs, there's music clubs, there's
Foreign
drumming
language club
clubs,
after school.
foreign language clubs after school. There's different types of art clubs
Here
after
at
school.
Woodlands right now.
Right
Different
in
types of
school.
sports clubs
Yep.
they have after school. I know they do some
Yeah.
cross-country running.
Is that at a certain grade level before sports kick in? Or?
Well, there's so much in the area in terms of sports. I know there's some clubs after school, and I know there's a running club.
Okay,
Girls
club,
on the run.
club is different.
Yeah.
Girls on the
Yeah.
run is third grade,
Third
third
grade.
grade.
Okay.
They have a basketball program, I believe, at Woodland. all
Fourth,
elementary,
fifth, yeah, fourth and fifth grade basketball. So,
There is an opportunity, we have a great, theater group at our high school. So there are opportunities, I think in each play, little ones have been involved, little ones, elementary school kids. They've been involved somehow in the plays as well. We also have a middle school drama department, and I think there's some involvement from the elementary school into, the middle school. We also have, correct me if I'm wrong, Kid Standard, am I naming that magazine correctly?
Oh, yeah, publication.
So recently,
We have students who will publish articles in a magazine that are distributed widely amongst this area,
Oakland County.
the Oakland County area. It's called Kid Standard, and it's strictly a learning magazine where students can write about their works, their discoveries, their research, if you will, and that's shared with other kids, other classrooms in the area. It's a monthly magazine that comes out, and students from, there's students from Clarkston, from Aquarium, we have students, they all participate in writing articles that are published in this magazine.
And those elementary babies, they work with some of our high school kids, so there's a mentoring piece there as well. So,
For that publication, yeah.
Yeah, I have a question about placement, because we are not from Avondale School District. So, you have priority for students within this district. Do you have some slot reserved for outsiders, or we are just in the waiting list to see?
Yeah, there will be slots that are decided. The Board of Education will act on the number of slots. Once we've placed, as I mentioned earlier, folks from inside the district, and we can identify the number of slots that are available after those placements. We then will be publishing those slots that will be available, and the state gives you a 30-day window, which we've selected April 10th to May 10th as the 30-day window in which a family from outside the district can apply for one of those slots.
So
This slot,
So
are they specific for this program, or it's just for the
it'll be
school?
specifically for this
For this
program.
program, okay,
Correct.
so are you going to get information will be published on the school district website or via email or?
That's why we've asked for your contact information, so if you've not signed in and given us your contact information, that's one of the ways that we can keep you informed of the information. It will also be on our website as well.
For the application process?
Yes, so let's probably go through.
Okay.
Also, this PowerPoint will be published on the website as well.
So, you want to back up some?
Yeah. No,
Next slide.
right there, right there. Today's one.
So on our Avondale schools, we have a gifted and talented page. Will be all the information, including when we go to schools of choice, what a parent must do to apply for that. Okay? So
So it's by May 10th.
by May 10th, and after you apply, you may submit to us anything you'd like to submit to us. It may be a psychological evaluation, it could be cognitive testing, it could be a portfolio. We'll take whatever you'd like to do. We're going to have some of the testing that we'd like to do. We'd like to see the creativity of your child. We use the Torrance test. We may supplement if you don't have any achievement testing or cognitive testing. We may pull some of that. We want to make sure we're placing children in this classroom that need to be in this classroom. So we'll work with you very closely on this. Will be at your convenience. We even have Saturday days where kids can come in and be tested on Saturdays, so parents don't have to take day off work, things like that. We even have an evening night where kids can be tested. So these are the different things that we're going to look for. Again, if you have stuff, you're more than welcome to supply to us, and we appreciate that.
So the two main pieces that we will need for our data, which you don't necessarily have to have, it is what we use for our district called iReady, reading and math. And you don't need to worry, you don't need to go out and buy it or anything. We'll provide the time for testing. And most schools have something called F&P, or Fontes and Pinnell. That's another testing piece that we use. Again, if you don't have those scores, that is another piece of testing that we would do with the kids as well.
The iReady test is very similar to the NWEA test. Some districts use NWEA. iReady is sort of a subsidiary of NWEA. So that's, again, that testing we would provide for you. You just need to make an appointment.
So tonight you have a copy in your packet of a parent nomination, okay? Again, it's a school of choice. There'll be other things that we'll need from you for the schools of choice process, but this is a sample tonight of a parent request to be in the program. So once you apply for the schools of choice of the Gifted and Talented program, we'll set up a time where we assess, look at the data you have, the data that we'll need to get, and then we'll meet and we have a selection process. If you feel your child should still be in it and did not get accepted, there's an appeal process as well, with two totally different teams of people looking at these students. So tonight we're meeting, again, we're going to have another meeting next Tuesday. January 9th, we're going to go to our school board and present about the schools of choice, how many students that we wish to recommend for this program. They will come back on the 23rd and vote or approve what we asked. We're going to have an open house. We think it's so important that the students in this classroom see their classroom, meet their teacher on February 23rd. Will be the first of a few different open houses that we plan on having. April 10th to May 10th, again, is that schools of choice window. We have from April 17th to May 12th, schools of choice standardized testing. You can say we have a Saturday on there. We just confirmed the other day we're going to do a couple nights during the week where our psychologists will come in, get permission from you, test what they may need to test. On the 26th of May, we'll be sending letters to families saying if your child is in or not in the program. Parents will be, by June 9th, having to tell us if they're going to accept that spot. And then there's also the appeal process as well. Any questions on the timeline? Yes, ma'am.
Do you recommend school choice parents to start their application process now and actually 100% wait until that May? Like, do you want paperwork now? Is that helpful to the school board?
The school board is going to be looking at numbers of slots. I think what would be helpful for the school board would be to understand what the demand is as they're entertaining a number of whether we're looking at opening one section of class or two sections of classes. But yes, it would be, to answer your question, yes, it would be good for us to have that information, to know that that is something that you're looking at seriously at this point in time, because that helps us to solidify numbers when we go to ask the Board of Education for a number of slots.
And one thing we didn't get a chance to cover, and I think this is very important, so if your child has a sibling, you know, we don't want you to be divided between two schools. We'll make a spot available in this school for your child.
Whether they're gifted or not.
Gifted or not, yep.
So you're not having to drive your children to different schools in the morning and so.
Yeah. We think that's very important. We don't want
Yes.
parents and kids, so,
It would be open for two classes. The reason I'm asking is, private schools require tuition way before May 27th. So it's a concern where, you know,
Sure.
you're paying for half of your school already,
Yes.
and we have to wait till May 27th. And I totally respect the fact that everyone who lives in the district gets first priority, absolutely. So to know whether or not there's two classrooms or one, earlier than, you know, May would be,
Yeah, we'll know by the end of January.
okay.
Yeah, by the end of January, we'll know if it's one classroom.
Because as much as I'd like to say I want to commit, whatever, it's a kind of a two-way,
Yeah.
you know, thing.
sure, sure. So again, inside your thing, it's where you can send your application packet, the different methods you can send your application packet. And again, I really want to stress, if you were to go onto the Avondale School District's website, if you go up and look in programs, there is a gifted and talented, and there's this information in there for you. You know, there's a lot of stuff on the gifted and talented. Joshua's supplied us a lot of great stuff. Allie's supplied us stuff that we have in there. And feel free to go in and browse. Our phone numbers are in there. If you ever have any questions, we're here to help you. You know, I know we want to thank you so much for coming because you're making a huge investment in your child's education. We think so much of your child's education. We think there needs to be programs for those children that are going above and beyond in the gifted and talented realm, and we want to be that school that provides that education for your child. And we think we're going to do a very good job. We have been working very hard for well over a year preparing, and we've been working with a lot of outside agencies, as you saw in the slideshow earlier, because we want to be good at what we do. We just don't want an educational experience. We want a great educational experience for your children.
We want you to be involved too, as parents. We want you to be an integral part of the program. You know, we want you to be involved as much as your time allows, to be a part of that. This is a family, this is a cohort that's going to be moving up and moving through. So it's critical that not only the students bonding together, but also the parents bonding together. So this is really a unique atmosphere for both student and parent.
So once the students, you expanded on both ends,
Yeah.
will you be expanding it to the middle school and the high school? too?
We'll be
Like
going
bring
into the
down
middle school. Yep.
Bring the college curriculum into the high school?
That's
So
the
that
plan.
they get,
Yep.
right, so,
We'll be working through MSU to develop that.
right,
That
that's right.
They specialize in 7th through
7th through
above,
9th.
and we've got our foot in the door. Thank you, Joshua. We got our foot in the door with MSU. They've just opened a very unique program in the Pier.
Uh-huh.
It's very exciting, their program, and we're working with them closely so that when these kids get there, they're going to have that unique experience, that GATE program. Yes, Ally?
So just to confirm, we're not supposed to wait on the application, let's apply now? Is that
Well,
what
you
I
can-
was hearing?
I think, I'm going to say yes,
Okay.
because that helps us, because if the board asks, you know, evidence of what's the demand, and if we have applications in hand, that always sends a message.
Okay, well, that's exciting, I thought we were supposed to wait.
So, you know, I think you can apply, and, you know, we won't be able to officially do anything with that until the slots are approved.
Right.
You know, and we can't officially, from the state's perspective, count that as an enrollment for next year yet until, because it's got to fall within that April to May
When this
window
says
period.
sample, you wouldn't want us to turn this into a sample on it, right?
Well, the actual ones will be on the website.
Okay, so we can print them
We're
out.
gonna have all of the application materials on the website, so that was just a sample that we passed out so that you could view it
Okay.
tonight.
Can I share one thing with you? I think there's a lot of nervousness right now that, you know, my child may not be able to get a spot through the schools of choice process. And you know, we don't know the number, but we're not looking to turn people away if they qualify for the program. So if you truly feel your child's gifted and talented and you have some evidence, you know, we're not looking to turn people away. We have to have a fair process to make sure that the kids that come in this program are gifted and talented. And I don't see us turning people away. Again, you don't see a large population. I can't remember, what did you say, that really there's about 2% in a school building of gifted and talented?
5%.
What is it, 5%?
5%.
5% of kids are in a building. And, you know, just the commitment that you have here tonight is wonderful. And I don't think we're going to be turning people away from this program. So, yes,
People have applied,
sure. How many people?
have applied so far? I understand there's a deadline of this Thursday that information's gonna go out for the people that are in district. Is that right?
We had, in-district applications, we had about 20, about 20.
Yes.
If,
That's applied?
That were nominated either by a teacher or by a parent, yeah, through the internal processes.
if the demand were so high, because this could draw from Oakland County, the greater area, I mean, it could be a big draw.
It could
There's
be.
a lot of schools.
It could be. And that's what we can't gauge
Right,
just yet. So
exactly.
that's what's.
Would you have the capacity to open 3 or not? Would you have to turn people? 3 sections. What if you got
I gotta get the CPR. Hang
Well,
on.
that's a very.
Hillary, get the paddles.
She's asking exactly what we're thinking.
Because we have seen that happen at the start
Oakland
of
County does
other
so fun.
schools.
So one thing that we didn't share with you is we actually have a plan B. We have a school right now that's not really being used except for maybe an alternative academy that has numerous classrooms. And we talked about this being a magnet program, and if this grew to the point, it would have its own school, it would be its own campus.
Its own entity, its own
Is that
campus.
Meadows?
Yep.
That would be Meadows.
Yeah.
That's correct.
So, which is not too far from us.
It's right off Auburn Road,
So you do, I love this plan B you have.
Yep.
so yes.
Yeah, one thing our boss wants is he always wants us to be prepared.
Yeah.
Right.
So if the demand is such that it would necessitate 3 sections, I mean, we would work to make that happen.
Yeah. You're making us happy, because we'd love to see
I mean, we'd
a
like to make
magnet
this
program,
grow.
a true magnet program, where kids could have that ability. I know you've had your hand up, I apologize.
Sure, sorry, I feel like I'm dominating something. I have a question about the application process. We talked about giftedness and the willingness to learn and that sort of thing. What about behavioral aspects? Is there a component in which, you know, I work really, really hard to take books away from my son and make him go play. The social part is really important to me. My goal as a parent is to have an individual who can, you know, survive the interview for a job and like him to bring home a spouse one day, right? Like that. I mean, no, I mean, but
Those are, you know, you're saying great things.
sure, most of us would get our parents. I mean, that's. I mean, you know.
And so many of the GT kids fall exactly within
So
that.
here we are. You know, I'm putting possibly this child of mine into a classroom in which he's probably the only gifted child, right? To a bunch of kids with the same quirks, right? So how are we going to address the social emotional? I know you have people, and I get that, but
We do it daily right now.
in the behavioral, in the application process, are we looking into behavioral components to help determine who's in the classroom?
Well, you know, we have to be upfront and honest, that any child in the schools of choice, we're mandated by law to look at discipline records. Okay, that's one thing we have to do. It doesn't mean it will exclude your child, but we have to look at that. And, you know, in this building alone, we also have an autism program, 2 classrooms for autism. And these kids come to us each with unique needs. Some won't even interact with other kids, but it's our job as educators to help them so that they can be successful in life. So our trained people have strategies to help our kids interact. And one of the things that you heard today from Carmen is that project-based learning, interaction, working with others. So as much as your child or anybody else's child might like to work solo, we understand that every child in the gifted and talented program is going to come to us with different behavioral quirks, but it's our job to help them move to the next step. And that's what our trained people are doing. One of the reasons we so heavily invested early, a lot of times you think of a program in the summer, let's get it started. It's been slow. We're rolling it out now. We're working hard. Our social workers are going to different trainings right now, what they can do to better provide. Our teachers have gone through called the statewide autism resource training. I know that's not gifted and talented, but they have a lot of components. How do you help that individual who doesn't want to do things go to the next level? So we're really excited about where we're going and how we can help kids. But your question it's a good question, because a lot of parents in here are thinking, here's my child with these set of traits. And I am worried about, I don't want them home living with me at 40 years of age. I'd like to see them have their own home. And, we do too. We want to help you with that. But there are good questions. And that's part of the reason that we want more interaction with our teachers and parents, so that we can be working together in this.
Because I'll give you an example, because my child's so academically inclined, sports aren't a thing that he looks forward to, right? And so being that there's peer pressure at recess time that all the kids play sports, he's playing soccer for the first time. And like that brought tears to my eyes, because this is a kid that was always aside, because he knew as a gifted child that he's not going to be as good as those kids play, and he's not. But the fact that he can let that go and play soccer is really important to me, because in the real world one day he has to, come outside of the bubble and interact. So that's the kind of thing that, as a parent, is and I might be the lone individual, but it's super important that they assimilate into the real world outside.
I think that's very important, and we're partnering with Rochester Soccer Club right now. When I'm saying we're partnering, our special needs students are partnering, but they also have programs for other kids with different needs. So we've been partnering with them. Matter of fact, tomorrow night we have a U.S. Olympic athlete who's dyslexic, coming into our middle school to talk to parents about his experience and things. But at a previous parent meeting we had about 15 different things. Rochester Soccer Club is wanting to reach out to our kids. How can we help their individual needs? They've got trained people to work with the kids. We're looking at those things. We're learning, and we're going to grow, but we're going to work with you to help your child. Yeah.
One of the interesting things about when you get gifted and talented classroom is a lot of these quirks end up sort of disappearing a little bit. Because now they're with kids who are interested in talking about the elements, and you don't get shunned for talking about the heart or other things. You've got kids that have interest in academics, and one of the things you're talking about, you being able to get a job. Google, when they first started, they would give IQ tests, and okay, we're going to take the most brilliant people. They found out that didn't work, because these most brilliant people hadn't been around other brilliant people, and so they weren't used to teamwork with those people, and they always thought, my idea is the best, I'm not going to listen to anyone else. Intellectual humility. So when they looked at that, they found out that by getting very intelligent people who also had experiences working with other very intelligent people in a team, they did a lot better. So this provides an opportunity for them to work with other very intelligent kids in a team setting.
So one of the things we want to make available to you tonight, if you want to look around the building, Hillary Owens, Carmen, myself, we can show you the building if you'd like just to walk around, see the pods, see the classrooms that we have here. You're welcome. Our gym. You're welcome to look around and see it tonight.
Any other questions that you might have? Yes,
One last question from me, sir. First of all, I understand it's early days, so this, the uncertainty about what's going to happen is fully expected and should be expected at this point by everybody. So we appreciate the effort you put into it so far. I think I can probably speak for most everyone here. I'm sorry that there are so many questions, but I'll ask one more. So that question is this. My son is too young to do the program starting next year, do you think that it would be helpful for the people whose children are too young to attend in an opening session to write a letter of interest to your school board, your Board of Education, expressing our enthusiasm and our interest in the project so that they know there's community support for what you're doing?
That would be helpful, sir. Yes. Yeah. Because we're going out on a limb. We are. We're taking a big risk.
We're so glad that you.
We're taking a risk that other districts won't take. And so it would help to provide some confidence for our board to have that voice, to know that.
Yeah, please talk us up. Talk us up on social media. Again, I think my boss would love to have 3 classrooms. That would be ideal. You know, really, it really would be. So talk us up. Tell people about us. Joshua's been, Allie, thank you so much. You've been bragging about us, and we haven't done anything except start a program because it's right for kids. So please talk us up. Again, you can have a million questions. Please feel free to call, email us. Everything that you have is right there for you.
Full disclosure, I'm nervous to talk it up because I don't want to talk my kid out of the spot. So that's, I'm just being honest. Like, oh, I really want it to happen, but, you know, I really want my kid to be there.
Well, you know, echoing Mr. Howard, it's going to be difficult for us to turn somebody away who's eligible. I mean,
It really is.
We're going to look to pad those numbers in the sense that we make a recommendation so that we're not, the last thing we want to do is turn somebody away.
Will you be reaching out to parents this first year if you find the response is overwhelming and that financially you don't have the wherewithal to do everything you hope to do? I know you've got the Facebook page, but what else are you going to do to reach out to the community to say, boy, we could do this and that if we had X amount of funding? Because I think you'd find that typically the parents of G&T children often have lots of resources available to them.
Well, in career and tech ed, they have what's called an advisory. So whatever discipline in career and tech ed, you have to have an advisory board. And just listening to you tonight, I think it might be a wonderful thing for us to have an advisory group of parents. And you're telling us things that can help us grow. One of the things just out there is parent involvement. We're not claiming to know it all, but we think all working together, we can do some great things. So I think the commitment you're going to get from Avondale Schools and our G&T leadership team is we're going to listen to you, we're going to work with you. Again, parent involvement was one of the most important things we think of this program. And a lot of times parents don't feel they're involved with their children's education. And the one thing that's been told us over and over and over by all the experts is parents have to be involved. So your input, your ideas, your concerns is a great thing for us to have an advisory board where any parent wants to come, talk, share. And the other thing is it may be great for the parents here to network. You may find that it was funny, Allie came in tonight and said, hey, my child's doing karate with so-and-so. And, I think those are the things that, you learn different things from other parents. We're going to learn things from you too.
I think that advisory board concept would be a great thing for us as we move forward. Because you're the experts. You know your child better than anybody else. We're taking strategies, we're taking philosophies and know-how from consultants and from professionals in the field. But at the end of the day, it's you who know your child best. And so being able to capture that and interweave that, particularly as we move forward, is critical for us. So I think that type of a board situation would be wonderful for us to develop.
I think the biggest thing is you could see us as being advocates for your children. And sometimes you probably have been able to say, the schools haven't been an advocate for my child. So we want to be an advocate for your child and you and help them get the education they need to get to the places that you want them and they want to go. So again, we'll be available to show you around. You can walk around on your own, look at the buildings.
Questions as you have.
Again, we're going to be here again next Tuesday night. If you like the first performance so much, want to come back for the second performance? Our boss does know some great songs.